Are you in the market for a new ATX case with a lot of transparent but not really windows for a relatively competitive price? Well, this hot piece of glass might be exactly what you're looking for. I mean it. I don't normally buy products from companies I've never heard of before, but I'll make an exception for this case. In this case, I guess either case works. The Mean It 5 p.m. case tells you exactly what time you should start being awesome. It's 5 p.m. somewhere, right? But even if it's not, you could probably use a break. Opening up the box, you'll find the case itself with some adequate packaging, and that's it. Opening up the case, you'll find a box of various screws, some zip ties, and the manual that tells you how to open the case. So I guess if you can't figure out how thumb screws work, you'd be, well, screwed. It stands 19.6 inches tall, 8.5 inches wide, 18.9 inches deep, and has support for micro ATX, ATX, mini ITX, and eATX motherboards, with standoffs pre-installed for the larger of the bunch. Though putting micro ATX or mini ITX boards in a case like this would be kind of like wrapping a hot dog in a trash bag. This boxer comes in just a little bit lighter than the Phanteks Enthoo Evolve tempered glass case at 24.2 pounds, which is respectable considering it's made of plastic steel and that glass though. You get 3 5mm thick full smoked black tempered glass panels, putting it in an aesthetic competition with Corsair's 460X or 570X cases. The mounting for the side panels is fairly standard, with the glass resting on these rubber wrapped pegs, while the front panel is mounted to this plastic bit and can be yanked out from the front. No front fan filter here, which I found to be a little odd, but it's not a make it or break it thing for me. There is one for the power supply, and that can be removed from the back of the case. The tint on the panels means you won't see much in the way of internals unless it's highlighted with some form of lighting, which may or may not shine, up to you. While Corsair's case has almost an open design, you'll notice Mean It's has some subtle branding where the panels would normally meet. But the plastic is a matte black, making it simultaneously stealthy and attractive to the overall appearance. At the top of this glass tower, you'll find a magnetic fan filter and the I/O featuring the 3.5mm headphone and microphone jacks, a power and reset button, 2 USB 3.0 and 2 USB 2.0 ports, and 3 buttons for the built-in fan controller that we'll spin back to in a minute. Speaking of spinning, let's put a spotlight on those fans. The case comes with 4 120mm fans pre-installed, 3 in the front for intake and a single exhaust in the rear. All fans come with rubber dampeners for noise cancelling, and each front intake fan comes with a bracket that makes installation from the front a little easier, but they're not necessary. The model I purchased is the Arc Blue variant, giving these fans a kind of Iron Man look. But you can also opt for the Lum Blue version with a different fan LED design. Both options are also available in red, but if LEDs aren't your thing, they also offer a lightless 140mm fan version for that mystical black box look. With a max RPM of 1200 coupled with the chassis' integrated Pwm Fan Controller we were talking about a minute ago, they sound a little something like this. The fan controller allows you to utilize either the motherboard's fan functions or the buttons on the top of the case. The 3 buttons will set the fans to off, low, which is around 60 to 70% of maximum fan speed, and high, which is basically jet engine mode. Hitting the high button again toggles from the case's fan controller to auto mode, which will allow the motherboard to dictate the fan speed based on the fan header you connected the controller to. Regarding the case's airflow, none of my components exploded, so that's refreshing. While on the hot topic of cooling, the case supports up to 7 120mm fans, 3 in the front, 3 on top, and 1 in the back, or 6 140mm fans, 3 in the front, 2 on top, and 1 for the rear, and support for up to 2 360mm radiators, 1 on top and 1 in front. Up to 2 280mm radiators are also supported. The front option is a little more flexible as the radiator can be positioned at almost any vertical height, but the top radiator mount only allows for the one spot. Push-pull configurations are supported in the front, but the top would be tighter than my pants on Thanksgiving, and on Christmas, and on Valentine's Day, and they even included a mounting bracket for a pump and a reservoir. In addition to this, the case offers a number of other features like a power supply shroud, cable management tie-down points, and GPU support rails to prevent unsightly saggage, though your graphics card has to be at least around 11 inches long to ride. The card support rails double as a cable cover, which means if they are holding your junk, you're almost forced to use the basement grommet to route those GPU cables. The case supports up to 3 3.5-inch drives, 2 of them go in toolless brackets which slide open a little and then clip back in to hug the drive comfortably, and the last can be screwed into the case from the bottom. If you forsake the 3.5-inch drives, you can fit up to 5 2.5-inch ones, but those will not share the same toolless attribute. And lastly, in terms of the big and girthy, it has 7 expansion slots for your PCIe devices, allows for graphics cards up to 17.1 inches in length, and CPU coolers up to 6.8 inches tall. Your GPU legroom will suffer if you decide to install a reservoir or a pump though. Time for some transparency. While the case impressed me initially, there are things I don't particularly like about it. Building in the case revealed a number of things I would have preferred differently. First minor thing to note is the power supply installation. They just barely allow one to slide in from the side. Not a big deal, moving on. The mounting for the panels is comparable to many other tempered glass cases, but the rubber covers that wrap around the pegs slide off rather easily. It's never a good sign when the rubber falls off. Speaking of rubber, there are no rubber grommets at the top cutouts. Not a huge deal since those are likely to be covered by something anyway, but still noteworthy. Additionally, there is only one tiny cutout directly under the motherboard. All other USB, front audio, or I/O cables must be routed from the one big basement grommet or the GPU rail/cable cover thing. On the subject of cable routing, Meenit advertises sleek cable management. Why are you lying to me? Sure, you get a lot of tie-down points for your cable bondage, and they include 3 Velcro straps that you might just end up leaving in their original position. But between the motherboard tray and the panel, there isn't that much room for your cable porn. In many cases, both situationally and physically, the more sassy products give you a little extra lip on the top so that you can hide your cables around the upper edge of the chassis, but there's little to no room for that up here, though there is a bit of spacing on the side that you can use. If you're using your default power supply cables, you may have a rough time routing the 8-pin CPU. The way the 3 SSD brackets are arranged doesn't allow you to do any routing through the right side without removing at least one. You can definitely make it work, but it might take you until 5 PM. Back to the main chamber of the case, my only other thought was this top right section looks pretty empty, which feels like wasted space. The GPU rail cable cover piece could have been extended further up for a little more uniformity, or there could have been some accommodation for mounting a pump, a reservoir, or additional drives. But maybe some people prefer the clean look. That's more of a personal preference, so I can't be too critical here. The LEDs appear me, but that also helps it look a little more subtle, which complements the stealthy look. And while we're winding down on those fans, one of the brackets they were installed on came a little bent out of the box. Not a huge deal, the material is thin and easy to bend back, and it didn't affect functionality at all, so I wouldn't consider this to be a critical flaw. And lastly, blue and red LEDs are so 2015. Sure, the fan designs are both literally and figuratively cool, but with so many people being anal about their color coordination, RGB should be a standard nowadays. This isn't a huge deal if you plan on replacing the fans anyway, but if you like how they look, well, too bad. And I guess lastly, while I can't really knock it for this, the panels are pretty prone to fingerprints, but such is the nature of tempered glass. I don't recommend leaving one of these at a crime scene. On the bright side, this case features 3 tempered glass side panels, and at $120 US on Newegg, it comes in cheaper than both of Corsair's glass case options. At this price point, it competes almost directly with NZXT's S340 Elite case, where it does have some advantages, like the extra glass, the GPU rails, and the additional radiator support. It also comes with twice as many fans, but aside from their LED design, they're not particularly exceptional. Not to say that they're bad, but if you decided to replace them, it probably wouldn't have you up in a tizzy. After that, it's all about the aesthetics. Simple and clean is the way that it's making me feel, alright? Aside from that fan glow. However, do note that while this case comes in cheaper than Corsair's, the 460X and 570X cases can come with their RGB fans, and that's the premium you pay there. But my concluding thoughts are as follows. For its $120 US price tag, this case is okay. If they dropped it by 10 or 20 bucks, it'd be significantly more compelling, but for what it offers, I think the way they positioned it is fair enough. It might have sounded like I complained a lot, but my only huge issue while building in it was the lack of cable management room behind the motherboard tray, which should be much more forgiving considering its respective panel is made of glass. But I suppose the glass is blacked out, which leaves most of it hidden anyway. That is, unless you look closely. And because of those panels, the case isn't overly flashy or tacky unless you want it to be. It supports a good amount of components, making it flexible enough for the majority of people. In the age of RGB, your biggest concern may come from the fact that you'd have to commit to either red or blue or black if you wanted to use their fan designs, in which case, Meenit may have just left you with a mean itch. But that may not be an issue for you. Maybe RGB has worn you down and any sight of a rainbow is enough to make you throw up your Fruit Loops. How would you have even gotten those down in the first place? So that's all I have to say about that. Like, dislike, comment, subscribe, share, leave me questions if you've got them. Thanks for watching. My name is Steven, and I am ALittleDIMM. Bye-bye. I recorded this video in its entirety in the wrong resolution. I didn't notice until like halfway through editing, so you get to see 2 sets of bloopers. It stands 19.6 and sinks. It sinks. It does sink, because it's a case, it's made of metal and stuff. This boxer comes in just a little you'll get 3 5mm thick, full smoke. I want to say I said it right, but then I said it again because I thought I said it wrong, and then I realized I might have said it right. The tint on the panels means you won't see much of, yeah. But you can also, hitting the high button again toggles the not a huge deal, but the material is thin and easy to bend back. The Meet at 5 p.m. case tells you my voice cracked. Yesterday, I could fake not being sick, but now my throat is like really feeling it, so and can be yanked almost looks like worked if you kind of ignore the first 3 letters and only look at the last 3. But you can also opt for the Lum Blue version with a different fan design. There's a period there. Up to 2 280mm. I think my voice cracked again. Stop it. Up to 200. But with so many people being anal about their cooler color, rats. If they dropped it by 10 or 20 bucks, it'd be significantly more compelling. I think I skipped a syllable in significantly. I'm not sure though. Red or blue or black if you ended up bleh.